We'll hit record because what I like to do is take the whole video and then I'll clip it down and then send like a Dropbox of all the clipped videos, and you can spread that around, use that as like content, stuff like that.
Yeah, sounds good.
Awesome, man. So welcome everybody to the Winners Mindset community. So tonight we've got Ben Foth, professional dating coach from London, Ontario. Ben, maybe you can give us a little introduction of yourself.
Now, what's up, people? I'm Ben, and like Miles said, I am indeed a dating coach. But the term I like to use is male sexual energy coach, since that's like really the main thing I work on with my clients. Like a lot of guys want to be successful in dating. Like every guy who wants to win it at life wants to be successful in dating. And these guys, they're drawn to like the quote unquote manosphere. And there's a lot of different schools of thought as to like what makes you good with women. Some guys think it's all about your physique, your wealth, and your fame. Some guys think it's all about the game and you gotta like learn these tricks, these tactics that are gonna turn a woman on and get her into you. And then there's more like dating for marriage type of people, and you're gonna find this sort of advice in the mainstream too, that focuses all on like the individual connection you have with a girl, keeping her comfortable, really getting to know who she is as a person. And all those schools of thought are correct. But what really determines how successful a man is going to be with women is how conscious and in control he is of his sexual energy. So from there, like we work on, discovering your masculinity with my clients. And then from there, we go into more like tactical stuff like how do you approach? What do you do when she does this? But like the foundation, it's always the sexual energy. It's always your masculinity, her femininity. Now, it's not the whole picture, but it is the foundation.
Nice, nice. That's a great place to start, man. So, like let's say there's some guy who wants to, maybe he's not, what's the word I'm looking for? There's kind of a negative connotation to masculinity these days. So, especially with these buzzwords like toxic masculinity, right? That's like in every second headline these days, right? So how could someone, who wants to improve his masculinity, how could he improve that in a positive way?
Well, it starts with realizing that masculinity is a multidimensional thing. And now, I personally don't like the term toxic masculinity, but it does bring up a very valid problem that some men and women face. Like, when a man's toxically masculine, it's because he has a one dimensional understanding of what being a man means. So you'll find this in like domineering, abusive men, or like just men who, used to be the nice guy, the guy who women walked all over, and now he's looking to flip that power dynamic and start being the one who like walks all over women. It gets them, submitting to him out of force. That sort of domineering, strategy, that's a very incomplete way of, defining your own masculinity. Like, it's not feminine. It's not stereotypically feminine, but it's a very low conscious way to be a man. So, the way I see it, there's three real fundamentals to being an attractive man who has a very like holistic, integrated sense of his own manhood. And that's biochemistry, positioning, and psychology. So I don't want to go into like too long of a rant about these because I wrote an entire book about them. But biochemistry, it's basically your body, how high your testosterone is, because like we all know that testosterone is the reason we're men. And if you have a testosterone deficiency, that's gonna set you up for a whole ton of failure in life. So optimize your testosterone, eat well, put on some muscle, don't jerk off to porn, be in control of your sexual energy, control it more than it controls you, and that's basically the biochemistry part of it. And next up is positioning. So this is what I like to call social attraction, social masculinity, and this is what the pickup, day game, red pill player sort of guys like to focus on the most. It's like
Neil
nothing.
Strauss.
Pardon?
Neil Strauss. Sorry to cut you
Yeah,
off.
yeah. Yeah, Neil Strauss is a prime example of those guys. So it's all about like, what sort of social groups you're in, how you position yourself in social dynamics, what sort of game you have, like who you know, what your circle's like, what your overall lifestyle's like. And this is probably like the most important fundamental of the three, because you could have like a really nice, healthy, strong body. You could have like your psychological, spiritual world in check, but you're not gonna meet women, you're not gonna do great things with your life in the first place if you don't have that positioning in check. So with clients, like I work on the biochemistry stuff first, get them understanding their biological role as a man. Then we move into a combination of positioning and psychology. So, like I said, tactics. I teach them, tactical ways to move through the world like a man, like an integrated man. And then the third fundamental to your masculinity is your psychological spiritual world. So it's basically, undoing dissonance, figuring out like how figuring out, how your own mind really works. Like, who are you as an individual? Like, how are the best ways? Well, what are the best ways to connect with both other men and women? And so it's like getting the intangible parts of yourself in check. Like biochemistry, that's all the physical stuff and partially the neurological stuff. Positioning, again, like we went over that. It's how we show up in the world to other people. And then the psychological, spiritual stuff, it gets a little more esoteric sometimes, but it's overall about learning to relate to other people in multidimensional ways. And that always starts with seeing yourself multidimensionally. Like not as like a guy who like has to always be this dominant alpha male who always wins. That's again a one-dimensional way of looking at it. Or like a guy who's only as good as his connections are. Like if all you are like a social network is very, very invaluable or very valuable. I don't know which one of those words is better to use here, but like a social network is one of the most valuable things you can have to move up in life. But if you're nothing without it, then that shows a real deficiency in your manhood. Because the way a man should operate in this world is he should have a social side to him and a sovereign side. And some guys, they're all about the social stuff. There's nothing to them when they're alone. And
Mm.
if that's you, like you need to rediscover who you are as an individual and not like live your life just to get other people's approval. And then the psychological spiritual stuff, like I'm gonna save that for later because like there's a lot to say about that.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there, and you what you spoke earlier about, those dominant men who are more aggressive in relationships and what they need to be, right? The one-dimensional man. It got me thinking, okay, maybe they've got too much testosterone, but they haven't done enough spiritual and psychological work to to balance that out. Do
That's
do
exactly
you
it.
think that that's exactly what it is? It's in, like that psychological stuff, right? It comes down to healing that inner trauma, right? Because largely it, and I'd like your idea on this, like those overly dominant men, and it sounds like they've got some things internally that they haven't healed yet, that they're just taking it out on the world in their social circle.
Oh yeah, most definitely. Like
Yeah.
I've more or less been that way before. I've known a ton of guys who were that way, and guys like that, they're always hurting on the inside. They always feel like they don't have control over their life, and so they try to, force this control, which repels healthy people and attracts unhealthy ones. So this is why you're gonna find like red pill, fake alpha male type of guys complaining about how women are evil and treat men poorly. But like that's the thing. If you're defining your masculinity in that one-dimensional way, those women who define their femininity in a similarly one-dimensional way are going to be the only ones you're going to attract, because like women with a more multi-dimensional integrated sense of their own femininity, they're not gonna buy those men's bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah. Blaming everything on hypergamy, right?
Damn hypergamy!
Yeah.
Curse you,
Yeah.
hypergamy!
Yeah. Yeah. Blaming the world, right? Blaming the world. And I guess it comes down to having like a victim mindset, a scarcity mindset of realizing, you know, I'm blaming the world and I'm taking responsibility. I'm taking no responsibility for my own trauma that I haven't healed, for my own actions that are hurting the people around me. And sometimes guys, they've got to hit a wall of their own, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. Now, earlier you mentioned something about testosterone. That's one of your foundational pillars, your biochemistry pillar that you work primarily with your clients just to start them off properly. Let's say a guy is low testosterone, what would be a great place for him to start off to boost those numbers up?
Well, it's all about restoring your body's biochemistry to what it naturally should be, because low testosterone in men, that's not natural. Okay, we're supposed to have high levels of this hormone within us because it's literally what makes us men. So my advice to any guy who has low testosterone or suspects he has low testosterone is to first cut out processed food like soda, sugar, anything that comes in a box, anything that's got like vegetable oils, unnatural chemicals you have a tough time pronouncing. Cut that shit out and eat a diet of mostly meat and vegetables and clean carbs, and if it's your kind of thing, then also dairy and animal products. That's a lot of it. And also get some sleep, because if you get less than if you get only a few hours of sleep a night, that more than halves your testosterone production. And also reduce stress, because cortisol and testosterone are made from the same raw materials. So the more cortisol you have, the less raw material your body has to make testosterone from. And cortisol also goes way, way high if you're sleep deprived. And then just like lift weights, put on muscle mass, because the more muscle mass you have, the more testosterone your body is going to naturally produce to maintain that muscle mass. So it's like a positive feedback loop of testosterone. The more muscle you have, the more testosterone your body has at baseline, and the more testosterone your body has at baseline, the more muscle it can put on. So if you're not already lifting weights as a man, you have to get on that. Even if it's just like, doing body weight workouts in your bedroom if you don't have access to a gym or you don't want to go to the gym. Like putting on muscle, I think, is a non-negotiable for any man who wants to have an integrated masculinity. And another thing is talk to women and befriend men, because there are men out there who, without them, you're never going to be the best possible man you can be. Like as that one verse from the Bible goes, as iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. And as for women, your body produces more testosterone when it's in the presence of an attractive woman. Like some of my workouts, some of my most beastly workouts were when I was trying to impress a girl who was lifting near me.
Yeah.
And yeah, let's just say like having her around sure helped.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's also like a lot of niche stuff like herbs and shit, but like I'm not gonna get into that because every guy's needs when it comes to, fixing his biochemistry are different. So I'm not gonna go and say like every man needs to take this herb, take this supplement to
Ashwagandha.
boost his testosterone. Yeah, I actually don't like ashwagandha. I know a lot of guys swear by it, but it gives me anhedonia, and I've heard a lot of stories about it giving other guys anhedonia. So if I use ashwagandha, it's gonna be like for acute stress. I don't take it like every day or anything. Like it helped me out when I had low testosterone last year for a bit because I was stressed because of corona. And I could barely do a few pull-ups. I could only manage like 20 push-ups or squats before my body gave out. And then I started taking ashwagandha and that got my body back into like the shape it's normally in. So again, like I don't usually use ashwagandha, but like I don't want to be dogmatic about any herb or supplement because again, every guy's got different needs.
Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, I think supplements for a large amount of people, that's secondary to, once you've got your diet dialed in, once you've got sleep dialed in, once you got your workouts dialed in. And I think one thing we can add on top of all that is to cut out beer, right? Or at least drastically reduce it. There's so much soy, estrogen, added wheats into it. It just inflames the whole body, increases estrogen, lowers testosterone. You have a poor night's sleep, and depending on the beer, it might taste like shit. It might taste like water, basically. You're into Bud Light and Budweiser.
Yeah, like liquor is very like hit or miss in my experience. Like a lot of guys will say that yeah, it fucks up your sleep, it fucks up your workouts. But I actually got into the best shape of my life. I put on the most muscle I ever have in the shortest amount of time when I was literally addicted to alcohol. So for me, it's like very weird because I find if I drink heavily, that like helps me with my workouts when I recover. But like last time I drank, it was only like 4 drinks on a night out, and like I woke up the next day feeling like shit and puking. So like that didn't make sense to me. But one piece of advice is that if you're gonna drink for gains, then stick to liquor and only have like just a few. Because
Hmm.
that's how it was for me when I was making my fastest progress in the gym. I wasn't like drinking a blackout or anything, but during that time I was just knocking back a few shots of liquor once or twice a week, and strangely enough, I feel like that helped me make some gains. And I don't know exactly why. This isn't medical advice, I'm just saying, I'm just sharing my personal experience.
Yeah, yeah, and that's one of the things we can do, right? Share the personal experience and then build off the nuance from there.
Yeah, because what I'm saying right here, it might not work for a lot of guys, but it's what worked for me. If anyone listening to this wants to try it out, be my guest. But no promises.
Yeah, and liquor's great. Like if you want to drink and you still want to be serious in the gym, still want to be serious with their diet, have the liquor straight. If anybody's listening to this and drinks liquor quite often, have it straight. Don't add any kind of like soft drinks to it or any kind of fizzy drinks.
Unless they're
That's
healthy.
yeah, under like elite genetics, elite physicality, but for us mere mortals, we don't really have that opportunity, right? Unless we've been training for like 10 plus years. But for the average person, to build up those healthy habits, it's often best to cut out alcohol as much as possible, especially beer, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think for the average guy, just a few drinks once a week isn't going to be a problem. But again, every guy's different. Some guys,
Hmm.
they're best off abstaining entirely. Some guys can manage with a few drinks once in a while. Like some guys can like drink heavily and still, be beasts in the gym, still be in optimal health. But yeah, like every guy's different. We just got to do what works best for us personally.
Yeah, yeah, and at that point, it's like a self-discovery, right?
Yeah.
You know, some
Yeah,
people
cuz like
can't. Go ahead, Ben.
yeah, I was going to say like some people, they've been alcoholics, they've had bad relationships with booze, and if they want to quit entirely, never drink again, that's their choice. But at the same time, like if a guy wants to like knock back a few drinks once in a while, he likes to party hard. I'm not gonna be dogmatic about booze and say, no, you're evil because you drink. That alcohol's a drug. It's harmful. I mean, I figure as long as you control the booze more than it controls you, you're fine.
Yeah, yeah, and at that point, it comes down to discipline, right? You know, discipline, building up those healthy habits. So, like, let's say, have you ever had any clients that ultimately want to improve their mindset overall?
That's every one of them.
Every one of them. So, like, beyond. So once they've gotten the biochemistry down, they've gotten their physique down, or at least greatly improved it from when they first started. What would be some next steps to increasing their mindset?
Mindset. Well, there's a lot of things I could say about that.
Sure. Well, I mean, so like let's take your most recent client. What were some steps you took to increase his mindset?
Yeah. So the problem that like a lot of guys have these days is that they're too in their heads. So they try to like over intellectualize life, and this extends to their relationships with women. They're too up here. They're not enough like here.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'd say like the biggest mindset issue that men have today is that they have a very transactional mindset around sex and relationships and women. It's like they think if I want to get a woman, I have to do this, I have to be this type of guy. And so it's very much bargaining. It's like if I do this, then she's going to give me sex. And this is the overall mindset that guys in like every corner of the dating advice community have. Like like the red pill, black pill guys, they're like, I have to be this high status alpha male, and that's gonna get me sex. The game guys, they're like, I have to act this way, I have to come off this way, I have to have this type of lifestyle. That's gonna get me sex. And then the guys who are all about personality and connection, they're like, I just have to treat her in these ways, and then I'm gonna get a relationship and sex. But really, like, the truth is that sex is the most natural thing in the world. It just happens. And so the mindset I like to instill in guys is that just by being a man, you can get women, you can get sex, like there's no transaction involved. Like sex and relationships aren't something you have to win over from a woman, and they're not something you have to manipulate her into giving to you. Like women want men just as badly as men want women. And so understanding that and learning to embody your sexuality very implicitly, very intuitively, and then selecting a woman based on your values as opposed to like trying to fit hers, that's what's going to give you the highest quality relationships.
Yeah, yeah. And it comes down to doing that inner work to know what your values are.
Exactly. Because the problem a whole ton of guys have is that they're orienting their strategy and dating around what's going to get just like any random half decent girl to want to sit on their dick. And that can work. I'm going to say that can work, but it's going to get you low quality to mediocre women. if you want high quality relationships with high quality women, you have to define your values first, define what's going to make you happiest, and then select women based on that, and cut out women who don't align with who you want to be as a man.
Yeah, absolutely. It becomes more of a pulling game, right? Instead of pushing yourself into, um, I guess we'd say, their worldview, their frame of reference.
Yeah, like one term for it is point of origin. Like for a lot of
Mm,
guys, women are their point of origin. So they orient their lives around what's going to get them pussy, what's going to get them relationships, what's going to get, women approving of them like mommy would. And this happens even with like objectively high status, good looking guys. Like they have the material stuff figured out, but they don't have the spiritual aspects of their masculinity integrated. So so a guy who learns to make himself his own mental point of origin, this is a guy who's going to have high quality relationships with women because he's not trying to bend himself, he's not trying to like put up a fake persona or be someone who doesn't make himself happy. It's like he puts on his own oxygen mask first. It's like he builds a life and then brings a woman into it as opposed to like trying to join a woman in her life.
mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. And I guess we could say that comes down to, extreme ownership and creating a life worth living as a
Exactly.
man, right? Creating that future vision and align not only the actions, the habits, but also the people in your social circle around that lifestyle. And that's where it kind of like a brother comes in, right? Mutual people, mutual connections in your network of people who are moving in the same direction as you are, mutual growth in that way.
Yeah, exactly.
So, what was I going to say? Um, Basically, so this is what are your thoughts on online dating? Because that's a big one, what guys are doing now these days, Tinder, Bumble, I don't know, Match.com, is that one? I have no idea.
I think Match is for more like older adults. Yeah, it's not somewhere
Yeah,
you'd find much of the young crowd.
yeah. So, okay, so let's just focus on, like Tinder and Bumble. What have your experiences been with those, if you've used them?
Okay, so keep in mind that online dating, it's changed as the years have gone by. Like when I was in university, like the bulk of my dating life was with girls I meet on these apps. But right now, online dating, it's a fucking dumpster fire. Like I don't like the chances of finding a girl you'd actually enjoy for more than a hookup on there, it's like 1 in a million, basically. So online dating, it was a lot better in the 2010s. Like you get some like you can meet some decent girls off of there. I've like some of the highest quality girls I've met were from dating apps. But but like calibrating for, these days, you're a lot better off, putting your time and your energy into your real lifestyle. Like online dating's dying. And and if you want to do it, go ahead, but it's not going to get you quality most likely. Like it depends on where you live cuz where I live it's a dumpster fire. But maybe in like more higher energy, higher vibration places,
Yeah.
yeah, you could meet some pretty decent girls off of there. But for the average guy, I always recommend, focusing on meeting women in real life because this takes away a lot of the awkwardness you get from meeting some stranger offline. It gets you, more motivated to improve your own lifestyle, even if even if like one of the main reasons is to meet girls. I mean, as long as you're, improving yourself. But yeah, online dating, it is largely a dumpster fire these days. So I don't recommend it. But again, nuance. If you're a guy who's living in, a higher quality place, you could get some successes off of there.
Yeah, I can definitely see that be possible in like say Miami or something, right? Miami, maybe
Yeah,
LA.
but if you're in a medium-sized Ontario city, it's a dumpster fire.
Yeah, yeah. You'd have to set your radius, get them across the water a little bit more too, right?
Yeah,
Get
I got
them
some Toronto ho
stateside. Yeah,
to like
yeah.
travel 2 hours here to meet me.
You guys could meet in the middle, and what is it? Is
Yeah,
Woodstock in the middle?
yeah, just like have a camping date in one of the forests.
Yeah, yeah. It's a provincial park or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Nice date by the water. But yeah, so like let's say, someone wants to move away from online dating, but they're a little nervous to approaching women in person. You know, how would a guy go about doing that? Is it a matter of putting the reps in? Is it a matter of maybe changing your clothes, lifestyle, social network?
Well, like we talked about before, it's all about defining your values and then selecting women based off of those. So it's a very like intuitive thing. Like if you go out, you're not going to be like if you're a guy who's smart and very connected to his masculinity, you're not going to be approaching like girl after girl after girl. That's what some of these pickup guys swear by, and it's never been my thing. Like they approach like maybe 20 girls at once, and the truth is that like none of those girls are gonna sleep with them, go on dates with them, return their texts, but occasionally one will, and that's because those two are in alignment. So if you're a guy who's never done cold approach before, never like randomly stopped a woman on the street and said hi, what I recommend is being a sniper, not a scatter shot. Because if you're a scatter shot, then like your energy is going to be diluted among like a whole ton of girls, most of whom aren't going to be a good fit for you. But if you conserve your energy and then give it only to the girls you find yourself most drawn to, then you could very well get some good results from day game. But day game isn't optimal. Like it puts you in a very like inferior position to women most of the time because if you're going out just like trying to pick up random women off the street, then those women most likely have someplace to be. They're busy, they're out doing whatever it is girls do, and you're just some pickup guy walking up and down the street trying to get any girl's number. Like it's not a very good look on you, it's not a very good story to tell. But if you're a guy who's just like going about his life, happens to see a girl he thinks is absolutely gorgeous, that can be good. That is good because you're selecting her for a reason. You're selecting her because you find yourself drawn to who she is as a person instead of just trying to get off with her because she's some half decent looking girl you just happen to see.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that makes totally so much sense, man. Conserve your energy instead of wasting it on, you know, lower vibration flings, I guess we can call
Yeah, it's not always lower vibration. It's more like women who wouldn't really care about you, women who aren't really aligned with you.
it. Yeah, and again, it comes down to, knowing what your values are
Yeah, knowing what kind of
and
man you are.
knowing what kind of man you are, and then knowing what kind of women you're attracted and after those, I guess, could we say vibrations? Would that be a good word for it?
Yeah, that's one way to put it.
Yeah. So, like you've mentioned vibrations quite a bit. What exactly do you mean by that?
Well, everything in this world is made of energy. Like we're gonna get a little woo-woo here. Everything in the world
That's the shit I
is made
love.
of energy, and similar energy attracts similar energy. So if you're so one way I put this is like you as a man are going to attract women and other men to you whose emotional worlds run on similar models, you know, like for example, if you're a red pill guy who has a very like antagonistic relationship with women, you know, your idea of what a woman is just she's some person you want to have sex with who also like wants to manipulate you and hurt you, then the women those guys are going to attract are women who have like those same self images, like they see themselves as like sex toys who manipulate men. And so because those people have like aligning emotional worlds, they're gonna be naturally drawn to each other. But a man who's like got higher vibration, who sees women multidimensionally, who sees women as just people who have their positive traits and their negative traits, who are just like trying to live life like any of us are, they're gonna attract women who see men and themselves that same way.
Wow. Yeah. Mutual attraction, and connected energy, as woo woo as that sounds, as esoteric as that sounds, but it just makes sense, right? Like it's the pickup artist game, I guess, the day game and the online dating game. I guess we could say it's, too logical, right? And it got me thinking about, guys who, a lot of us are playing video games, and, you press a button, you get something in return, right? You press a series of buttons, you get a greater return, right? So I think that's kind of how the how I see like the dating, the pickup artists, the online dating, they're kind of approaching the game, right? If we want to call it that. They're too logical. If I do XYZ, then I'm going to get alpha, omega, gamma, right?
Yeah, they're treating the game like a game.
Yeah. Yeah. They, again, yeah, the one-dimensional game. They're forgetting the 3 and 4D emotional, energetic, vibrational game.
Yeah, and it's not the worst way to see it, but good on those guys for, you know, putting themselves out there. But a lot of the time, I just want to like slap him and be like, bro, you're not showing enough of your humanity. You're treating it like way too cerebrally. You're like a fucking robot out here.
Yeah, yeah, shit, man. That reminds me. Have you read The Game by Neil Strauss?
A bit of it, yeah. Just like the Amazon preview.
Okay, so about the first quarter way in, Neil Strauss, he's getting introduced. He's a writer. He's getting introduced to the network of the pickup artists. He meets Mystery, and he's Mystery's pupil. They go on a first, what were they called? Seminars, I guess. Weekend seminars. They would go in these bars, these clubs, and just approach women like it was a numbers game, right? It was a numbers game. They were the salesmen dialing the phone all day long, right? Just picking up, picking up, picking up. And then there were 5 of them. But then the 5th guy came in the room as the introduction. And when he was talking to the other guys, he was just like a robot, just as you said, like just clunky, no emotion behind his words. He was almost like it becomes a forgettable person, right? He just wanted, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess the gratification, the attention from other people to prove himself, I guess, to make him happy, if that makes any sense. And, I think when guys start getting aligned with their energy, their vibration, their confidence in themselves, and ultimately their mental point of origin, they start, again, as you said, they start developing the 3 and 4D layers in themselves. And then they're able to get the women that they want, and the physique that they want, the mindset that they want. And and ultimately life that they want. So I guess, like let's say a guy was trying to, I don't know if you deal with this with your clients, improving their style as well, like clothing style. Is that something you touch on?
I think I've talked about it with one client, yeah. And basically, you just gotta like pick clothes that fit who you are as a man. Like there's no like one proper way to dress when it comes to being an attractive man. It's all about defining what sort of archetype of masculinity you embody and going from there.
Nice, nice. Kind of like what Tanner, is it similar to like what Tanner Guzzi talks about?
Not nearly. I mean, I'm no fashion expert, even though I do dress pretty nicely. But yeah, if you want nuance about like clothing and clothing archetypes, yeah, Tanner's the guy you want to talk to. But the only advice I can give you about fashion is basically wear clothes that fit what kind of man you are. Make sure they fit on your body, make sure they look good. But overall, don't try to be like a guy you're not with your fashion. Like if you're a very like I don't even know what I'm saying here, but like it can be good to like mix up archetypes to like put a hint of an archetype that's not really you into your fashion. But again, nuance, nuance, nuance.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now you've mentioned archetypes. What for the viewers at home, what do you mean by that?
Like models basically of manhood. Like for example, like when I say lumberjack, what do you think of? You think of a big burly guy in the forest holding an axe. He's got like a red checkered shirt on him. Or if I say like artist, you're thinking of a guy in like a cool hat like this one who's like got a paintbrush, he's painting, maybe he's got like a camera or like a cool mustache. Or like athlete, you're thinking of like some dude in a football uniform sprinting down a field. Like it's all these like it's like these roles that men play in the world basically. Every man's got to like figure out like which ones suit him and then not really like stereotype himself but like understand that like you present yourself in certain ways and that's how people see you. Like if your first impression of someone is that he's like wearing if he's got like big muscles and he's wearing like a cut off shirt and like gym shorts, you're probably thinking that guy's a gym bro. But like you don't know anything else about him, he might be just like a gym bro, he might be like an aerospace engineer, he could be like he could like write poetry in his free time and you'd never know. But like you just see like the archetype isn't who you are, but it's like the first impression you give off to people.
Mm, mm. And yeah, so first impressions. And so would that come down to largely clothing
Yeah,
and the
clothing's part of it,
style? Yeah.
but it's mostly your lifestyle. Like you can fake yourself, yeah, but people are gonna find out who you really are really quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. And it won't be pretty when it happens.
Yeah, no, that's what happens to guys who fake themselves to get women. They can win women over for a bit, but then like their your true self always comes out unless you're a really good actor.
Hmm. Well, that's a good way to segue in. So we've talked a lot about dating, and that's kind of, you know, attracting, finding a woman that aligns with your values, bringing her in with you. Now, how can a man keep her around and go for a long-term relationship?
Well, it's by giving her a part to play in his life. Like the stuff that's like all about, like positioning yourself as an attractive guy with your body and your lifestyle, that's gonna get her. And to some degree, it's gonna keep her. But what's really, really gonna be the foundation of where your relationship goes is your psychological, spiritual worlds. So so if you want like an LTR with a girl, it's not just about being attracted to each other. Like you both are attracted to a lot of women, a lot of men, but what about your personal connection is going to make you stick around each other? Is what you got to ask.
Mm. Hmm. So how can someone, create that personal connection? Is it more so, again, does it come back to the alignment of the initial values that you created for yourself?
Well, the connection, it just naturally happens. It's not something you can force. It's not something you can manipulate into existence. Like it happens when you first meet her. Like the first 5, 6 seconds you meet her, that's when your connection begins. So, so if you're a guy who wants to have that sort of connection with a girl, you just need to let it naturally happen. Like you can position yourself around girls who align with you. You can work on your body to be more like attractive to the primal part of their brains. But this psychological, spiritual connection you have with a girl, it just happens. Like you can't make it happen. It just does. And then once it's established, like what you do with it is absolutely your choice. Like if she aligns with your values, you can keep her around. But if you like her, but she's not really like a good fit for you, you can let her go. But overall, like it's about getting to know who she is as a person, showing her who you are as a person, and letting things just naturally happen.
Mhm. Do you find that kind of like pisses guys off a little bit? I find guys want like a clear cut answer instead of, you'll know when you know, right?
Yeah, this is gonna piss a lot of guys off. Like, it used to piss me off too, because like, because like I'm like, okay, I want a girl, but like I'm not really like vibing with any of these girls. Well, it's because I'm not fucking supposed to vibe with any of those girls. I have to, work on myself first. I can't like force these girls to vibe with me.
Yeah, yeah. Again, you can't manufacture connection. You can't manufacture emotion if there's no vibe there.
Yeah, like
So go ahead, Ben.
yeah, I was gonna say attraction, like who you're attracted to biologically, socially, psychologically slash spiritually. That's not in your control. So don't try to force things in that domain. But like when you already have a connection established with someone, you already have that mutual attraction, that mutual interest. What you do with it, that's in your control. That's entirely up to you.
Hmm. Now I'm curious what you think about this. Like let's say a guy wants to do some hardcore self improvement. Let's say he wants to do a full year of self improvement. You know, should he push himself to go continually into the dating world on and off, or should he take some time off from that and really focus and develop himself physically, mentally, spiritually? What do you think?
Well, there's no reason you can't do those things simultaneously. Like it's really gonna depend on the guy. Like for example, a guy who's a virgin, who's never had a girlfriend, who's never even kissed a girl, a lot of his personal psychological growth is going to come from him testing himself in the dating world, putting himself out there, meeting girls, maybe even hooking up with them or dating them or getting into a relationship. But now let's consider a guy who say, he's been like say he had a long-term girlfriend in high school and then when he got to college they broke up and then he started dating a bunch of girls in college and later got serious with one of them and then she broke up with him, broke his heart. This is a guy who's not going to benefit if he like goes into the dating world trying to like figure it out cuz he's been in relationships, he's been dating, he's been with girls like all his life. So what's going to be the next step for him would be like taking some time off from chasing girls, like going celibate for a while, and then figuring out like who he is as a man when he doesn't have women around.
Mm, That's a big test right there, right? Who, and this is a question all the guys should ask themselves, who am I when not only when the women aren't around, but when nobody's around, going
Ooh.
back to that sovereign individual, that's a big heavy hitting question. And it's not a question you can answer in a span of 5 minutes. It's something might take a few days to figure out, maybe a week, dabbling at it a little bit here and there. So Ben, before shutting this down, do you have any kind of closing statements for the audience?
Oh, well, I mean, I had a really fun time doing this. I feel like we covered a lot of great topics succinctly. So it's been a pleasure, sharing this wisdom with you guys. And Miles has been an awesome host. So thank you very much, Gangsta.
Awesome, bro.
And
I appreciate that.
and yeah, man, do you have anything else you want to say? Anything else you want to ask me?
Man, I think we covered pretty much everything, largely dating, masculinity, and how it covers mindset as well, right? And going back to that mental point of origin to really focus on developing yourself as a person, finding out what your values are, finding out what women attract you, finding out what your network is, your lifestyle, your clothing, your habits, testosterone, diet, workouts, all that kind of stuff. It all comes back to the mental point of origin and having yourself as an
Yeah.
initial point of mindset.
Yeah. It all comes down to seeing yourself both as a man and as a holistic individual. Like, if you want to discover who you are as a person, the first step is like going into those really like primal parts, those primal biological parts of yourself, and figuring out like, okay, I'm a man. What is the role of a man in this world? Like what's my biological purpose? What are my lowest desires? And then it moves into like learning how you like coexist around other people, like what sorts of social roles you occupy, like how you like interact pro-socially with other people. And then after that, it's defining like who you are as an individual, like independently of your biology, independently of society, figuring out like what sort of life, what sort of values are going to make you happiest personally, and then orienting your life around that. And for a lot of guys, like get into this step, it means killing their ego. It means killing like this like false idea they have of who they're supposed to be, who society wants them to be, who they have to be like transactionally to get things from other people. And instead learning to focus on their own individual happiness first and then define the rest of their life from there, while still like keeping in mind their biological primal motivations and how they show up in the social world. Because it's like building a three-story house basically. You got your foundation, your first floor, which is learning how to be a man, optimizing your biochemistry and your neurochemistry, basically learning like basically integrating your primal side as a man. And then the second story, it's all the social stuff, it's all the game, it's understanding social dynamics and how people think and how to like position yourself in this world to get the most out of it and to give the most to it. And then the third story, that's all the psychological, spiritual stuff. So once you've like established a more superficial relationship with the world, then you can go deeper into yourself. You can go deeper into your soul, your other people, the workings of the universe. And what some guys do is they go into an unhealthy variation of this. They try to like build the second or the third story without taking care of the first one.
Mm,
Yeah. So it'd be like building the second or third story of the house without working on the lower floors first.
Yeah.
And
You
you
got to
see
build the
this
basement.
yeah, you see this with guys who like are very in their heads, who like are obsessed with like intellectual stuff and about understanding the world, but they don't have themselves as men figured out. They have a weak sense of connection to their own primal masculinity, and this is what fucks them over in life. And less commonly, you have like really spiritually oriented people who like try building their third story and partially their second, but they're doing that without the foundation of the first two stories. So to any guy listening to this, every guy I work with, like I always focus on like the first story first, then the second, then the third. Because once you've got your biological primal purpose as a man figured out, then you can add on like mental games, understanding social dynamics and how people think, and like understanding the world on an intellectual level. And then once you've got that like intellectual understanding of the world, then you can really like put your heart and your soul into it and learn to let go of the things that really don't serve you in the long term. So I hope that made sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it, Ben. Now, where can people find you online if they want to get in contact with you?
Well, there's two main places. I'm very active on Twitter at Ben_Foth. And I also have a website, benfoth.com, where I post my photography and my writing, and where if any of you guys are interested in working with me one-on-one to develop your sexual energy and a multi-dimensional way of being the man you're supposed to be, then you can find that on my website.
I love it, bro. And I think you're active on Facebook too.
Oh, not really.
No?
I just use it for Messenger basically
Oh,
at this
okay.
point.
Nice, nice. So yeah, Twitter, website, and get in contact with Ben one-on-one. Upgrade your sexual energy, become the man you were destined to be.
That's an awesome way to put it.
Awesome. So I'm gonna